You walk into a room, nobody says a word, but something invisible is already happening. A silent calculation is running in every person's mind. Your posture, your tone, the way you hold your phone, the micro-expressions flickering across your face. People are watching, and they are not just seeing you, they're ranking you, deciding if you're a threat, deciding if you're prey, deciding if you deserve respect or dismissal. This isn't paranoia. This is reality. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago when he wrote that men judge by appearances and outcomes, not by inner truth. The world doesn't care who you are in private, it only cares what you project in public, and most people are projecting weakness without even knowing it. Here's what nobody tells you. Public space isn't neutral ground, it's a dominance arena. Every coffee shop, every office hallway, every family gathering, every social media feed, these are battlefields where status is won and lost in seconds. Not through violence, not through confrontation, through signals, subtle, silent, devastating signals that separate the respected from the ignored, the powerful over the powerless, the predator from the prey. You've been taught that authenticity is admirable, that vulnerability builds a connection, that being yourself is enough. Those are beautiful lies designed to keep you comfortable while others rise above you. The truth is harsher. The truth is that public life demands a mask, not a fake one, a strategic one. And the moment you forget that, the moment you expose too much, share too much, feel too much in front of the wrong eyes, you hand away your power. So let's burn through the illusions. Let's strip away the comforting myths about how the world works and reveal what actually governs human perception, respect, and influence. Because once you see the game, you can't unsee it. And once you understand the rules, you stop being a pawn. Comment, I see the game, if you have ever felt judged without a word being spoken. Because if you have, you're already halfway to understanding what I'm about to show you. Let me show you the first mistake that kills more ambitions than anything else. Announcing your plans. You think sharing your goals creates accountability. You think it invites support and encouragement. It doesn't. It invites sabotage. There's a psychological phenomenon happening the moment you declare an intention publicly. Your brain experiences a false sense of accomplishment. You get the dopamine hit of recognition without doing the work. You feel like you've already achieved something just by saying it out loud. Scientists call this premature gratification. Your mind can't tell the difference between talking about success and actually achieving it. So it rewards you either way. But worse than that internal delusion is the external response. The people listening aren't rooting for you. Not really. Some are skeptical because they've heard big talk before and seen nothing come of it. Some are envious because your ambition reminds them of their own stagnation. Some are quietly hoping you fail so they feel better about not trying themselves. And some, the truly dangerous ones, are taking notes. They're learning your strategy, your timeline, your vulnerabilities, your weak spots, and they're preparing to either copy you, undermine you, or position themselves to benefit when you stumble. Machiavelli warned that men are more ready to repay an injury than a benefit. Translation: people remember your ambition more than your kindness. And if you announce that ambition too early, before you've secured the win, you turn yourself into a target. Think about it for a second. Every time someone publicly declares they're starting a business, the crowd gathers, not to cheer, to watch, to wait, to see if you're serious or just another person with loud dreams and quiet execution. You've seen it happen. Someone posts on social media about their new fitness journey. On day 1, they get 100 likes and encouraging comments. Day 7, the likes drop. Day 30, they've quietly stopped posting because they didn't follow through. And everyone who saw that initial announcement remembers. They remember you as someone who talks big but delivers small. That reputation sticks. It colors every future interaction. When you inevitably hit a rough patch, when the plan stalls or shifts direction, those same people get to feel superior. They get to whisper to each other, "I knew it wouldn't work." They were never serious, just another wannabe. And your public declaration becomes your public humiliation. Here's the power move that the truly successful understand. Work in silence. Let your results announce you. Build in the shadows and emerge only when the outcome is undeniable. When people ask what you're working on, smile and say something vague. Just exploring some ideas, staying busy with a few projects. Nothing concrete, nothing they can track or judge. When they push for details, deflect with genuine curiosity about their life instead. What about you? What are you excited about right now? This does two things. First, it protects your plans like classified intelligence, because that's what they are. Strategic information that only your enemies benefit from knowing early. Second, it makes you more interesting. Mystery is magnetic. The person who always has something brewing but never reveals exactly what becomes a figure of intrigue. People wonder about you. They respect the boundary. They assume you're working on something important precisely because you're not desperate to announce it. And in a world where everyone is oversharing every minor update, the person who withholds becomes powerful by contrast. Silence isn't absence. It's presence without vulnerability. It's confidence without the need for validation. It's power without explanation. And it's the first rule of public dominance that most people violate every single day. Now let's go deeper, because silence alone won't save you if you're leaking weakness through another channel. Complaining. You've been sold a narrative that venting is healthy, that sharing your struggles creates connection, that people will respect your honesty and offer support. This is one of the most damaging lies of modern culture. Misery doesn't create bonding, it creates contamination. When you complain publicly about your job, your relationships, your circumstances, your exhaustion, you're not being authentic, you're being low status, you're signaling to everyone within earshot that you lack control over your own life, that you're a victim of circumstances rather than a master of outcomes, that you're someone who's overwhelmed by the same challenges that others manage quietly. And humans, consciously or unconsciously, distance themselves from perceived weakness. It's not cruelty, it's biology. We're wired to associate with strength because strength offers security, resources, and advantage. Weakness offers nothing but emotional labor and risk. Nobody wants to be pulled into someone else's negative spiral. Here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Nobody actually wants to hear about your problems, not your friends, not your colleagues, not even your family beyond a certain threshold. They might nod sympathetically when you complain. They might offer hollow reassurances like it'll get better or hang in there, but internally, they're recalibrating their perception of you. They're filing you under categories like struggling, ons, a table, or not someone I want to align with. And the more you complain, the more you confirm that label. You become the person others avoid at social gatherings, the one who always has drama. The energy Drathatho turns every conversation into a therapy session. The cautionary tale that parents use to warn their kids about negative thinking. This doesn't mean you can't have problems. Everyone has problems. It means you can't broadcast them like a distress signal to everyone in your orbit. There's a massive difference between privately seeking counsel from a trusted advisor and publicly airing grievances to anyone who will listen. One is strategic vulnerability with someone who's earned that access through proven loyalty. The other is reputational suicide that permanently damages how people see you. Machiavelli understood this principle deeply when he wrote that one must appear virtuous even if one is not. The appearance matters more than the reality when it comes to public perception. Public perception is reality in social dynamics. So even if you're going through absolute hell, even if you're exhausted and overwhelmed and barely holding it together behind closed doors, your public persona must radiate composure, strength, control, the ability to handle pressure without visibly cracking, because the moment you let the cracks show publicly, people stop seeing you as powerful. They start seeing you as broken. And broken things don't command respect. They invite pity at best, exploitation at worst. Neither serves your interests. So take your struggles to a private counsel, a therapist who's bound by confidentiality, a mentor who's invested in your growth, a journal that no one else will ever read, a close friend who's proven over the years that they can hold space without judgment. But in public, in the arena where perception determines your social value, you wear the armor of stoic strength. You signal that you handle pressure without collapsing under it, that you solve problems without drowning in them, that you're someone who rises when others crumble. Drop a fire emoji if you have ever realized that complaining made things worse, not better. Let me show you another way people destroy their own status without realizing it. Losing your temper in public. Public emotional outbursts, anger, rage, visible frustration. You think you're standing up for yourself when you snap at someone who disrespects you. You think you're showing strength by refusing to let things slide. You're not. You're handing your enemies a detailed user manual for how to control you. Every single time you lose your temper in public, every time you snap, yell, curse, or visibly lose composure, you reveal your triggers. You show exactly what buttons to push to destabilize you. You demonstrate that certain words or actions can make you predictably lose control. And smart people, manipulative people, power-seeking people, they take careful notes. They remember exactly what set you off, and they file that information away for future use. The next time they want to throw you off balance before a negotiation, they know what to say. The next time they want to make you look unprofessional in front of others, they know what buttons to push. You have given them the exact blueprint for how to weaponize your emotions against you. Emotional control isn't about suppression. It's not about pretending you don't feel anger or frustration or hurt. It's about sovereignty. It's about deciding when and how you respond rather than reacting on automatic pilot. Because the reaction is weak, response is power. When someone insults you, provokes you, undermines you in public, and you immediately lash out, you've proven something critical. You've proven that they control you. They pulled a say, and you danced exactly as expected. They own your emotional state. But when you pause, when you absorb the provocation without flinching, when you respond with calculated calm or strategic silence, you've proven something entirely different. You've proven that you control yourself, and self-control is the foundation of all other forms of control. People fear what they can't manipulate. They respect what they can't rattle. They avoid challenging those who remain unmoved by emotional bait. Think about the last public argument you witnessed. Maybe in a grocery store, when someone was screaming at a cashier. Maybe in an office when two colleagues got into it. Maybe only, when someone had a meltdown in the comments. Who did you respect more in that situation? The person who was screaming, red-faced, visibly unraveling, or the person who stayed cool, spoke evenly, and refused to be dragged into chaos? The answer is always obvious when you're watching from the outside. Composure wins every single time. Because composure signals mastery. It signals that you operate from a place of strength, not desperation. That you don't need validation or vindication from others because you're secure in your own reality. That you're capable of thinking clearly under pressure instead of being hijacked by emotion. And that security, that clarity, that self-possession is magnetic. It commands attention naturally. It earns respect without demanding it. It creates psychological space that others instinctively defer to. The person who doesn't break under pressure becomes the person others look to when pressure hits. Now let's talk about something that might be destroying your reputation even more subtly. Over-apologizing. This is the death spiral of the chronic people pleaser. The person who says, sorry for existing, sorry for taking up space, sorry for having needs or opinions or boundar. Eyes. Every unnecessary apology is a micro-submission that trains the people around you. It trains them to see you as beneath them, as someone who can be walked over without consequence, as someone who will always yield, always accommodate, and always shrink to make others comfortable. Here's the psychological mechanism at work. When you apologize excessively, you signal fundamental uncertainty about your own worth and judgment. You signal that you don't trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, why should anyone else trust you? Apologies are meant for genuine wrongdoing, for actual harm caused, for mistakes that carry real consequences and impact others negatively. But most people apologize for things that don't require apologies at all. For asking a question, for stating a preference, for setting a boundary, for taking up time or space, for simply being present and having needs. And every time you apologize for these normal human actions, you erode your own authority. You give implicit permission for others to treat you as less important than they are, because you're treating yourself that way first. The same destructive pattern happens with over-explaining. When you justify your decisions, your choices, your boundaries to people who didn't ask and don't have any authority over your life, you're seeking permission. You're implying that their approval matters more than your autonomy, that you need them to agree with your choice for it to be valid, and people sense that desperate energy immediately. It repels high-value people who respect boundaries, and it attracts manipulators who've learned that if they push back, you'll explain more, justify more, apologize more, until you eventually give them what they want. You're training people to challenge you because you've shown that challenges work. If you've ever apologized for existing, pause right now and hit that like button. This is your wake-up call. Because the shift from people-pleasing to self-respecting starts with one simple change. Stop apologizing for things that aren't actually wrong. Stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned the explanation. Start treating your decisions as final statements, not as opening negotiations. When someone questions your boundary, don't justify it with a long explanation. Simply restate it clearly. I'm not available that day. Not I'm so sorry, but I have this thing, and I really wish I could, but unfortunately I just can't make it work. When someone challenges your choice, don't defend it desperately. Acknowledge their perspective, if appropriate, and then move on. I understand you see it differently. I'm comfortable with my decision, not a 10-minute justification of every factor that went into your thinking. You don't owe anyone access to your internal reasoning unless they were in a position of legitimate authority or intimate trust. And even then, you explain once, not 5 times. Not until they finally approve, once, clearly. And then you let the discomfort of their disagreement sit with them, not with you. Machiavelli said it plainly in The Prince. The leader who is too generous and accommodating will ultimately be despised. If you give too much of yourself, if you're too accommodating, too available, too eager to please everyone, you'll be taken for granted. People respect boundaries. They respect firmness. They respect those who value themselves, enough not to bend and twist for every whim or expectation. So stop submitting verbally. Stop shrinking yourself into shapes that make others comfortable at your expense. Start occupying your full space with quiet, unapologetic presence. And watch how quickly the energy shifts around you. Watch how people start checking with you instead of assuming you'll accommodate. Watch how respect appears where there was only presumption before. Let's talk about money, because this cuts across every social class and destroys more relationships than almost anything else. Whether you have money or you don't, revealing your financial status is strategic suicide. And most people do it constantly without realizing the damage. If you display wealth openly, you attract a specific set of problems. Envy from those who have less, resentment from those who feel you don't deserve it, and predators who smile to your face while calculating how to extract value from you. People start befriending you not for who you are as a person, but for what you can provide. Access to exclusive spaces, invitations to expensive experiences, gifts and generosity, loans that are never really loans because there's social pressure not to ask for repayment. And when you eventually can't or won't deliver on these implicit expectations, the resentment surfaces. Suddenly, you're called selfish or stuck up. You become the target of gossip about how money changed you. People start rooting for your downfall because it would validate their own choices or make them feel better about their financial situation. On the opposite end, if you reveal poverty or financial struggle publicly, you attract a different set of problems. Pity, which is just contempt wearing a sympathetic mask. Dismissal, because people unconsciously associate financial success with competence and loss of respect. Because, whether fair or not, society judges status partly through economic signals. People stop seeing you as an equal. They start making decisions for you, talking down to you, assuming you're incapable of handling adult responsibilities. They offer unsolicited advice about budgeting and career choices. They exclude you from activities because they assume you can't afford them, even if you could or would priori. Ties differently. Whether it's envy or pity, both corrode your social standing. Both change how people interact with you in ways that serve you poorly. Here's the truth, that the truly sophisticated understand. Wealth is not primarily about the actual numbers in your account. It's about perception and the power of ambiguity. The smartest players keep their financial status deliberately ambiguous. They dress well but not extravagantly. They choose quality over flash. They move through different social spaces without broadcasting status signals. They pick up the check sometimes, but not always. They talk about experiences and ideas, not price tags and acquisitions. They let people wonder without ever giving them a concrete answer about where they stand economically. Because ambiguity is protection. It prevents financial targeting. It keeps relationships based on genuine character and compatibility rather than economic calculation. It allows you to move through different social circles without being pigeonholed. Think carefully about the people you truly respect who have quiet power, the ones who command rooms without saying much. They don't tell you what they're worth. They don't flash designer labels or drop hints about their investment portfolio. They don't complain about being broke or brag about their latest acquisition. They simply exist with a calm confidence that suggests they're fine, whatever that means to them. And that very ambiguity makes them unpredictable. It makes it targetable by gold diggers or those looking for handouts. It keeps them safe from the social vultures who circle those who reveal too much. Money must whisper, never shout. Because the loudest displays of wealth or poverty are always the clearest signals of insecurity. Someone truly secure in their financial position doesn't need to broadcast it. And insecurity, no matter how you dress it up, is always low status in social dynamics. Comment: ambiguity is power. If this principle just clicked for you, let's go even deeper into how people destroy their reputation without realizing it. Gossip and oversharing, these behaviors feel harmless in the moment. They even feel like bonding. But they're silent reputation killers. When you gossip about others, you're sending a clear signal to everyone listening. You can't be trusted with sensitive information. Because if you talk about others behind their backs, you'll absolutely do the same to whoever you're talking to right now. Everyone knows this on some level. So while they might participate in the gossip, might laugh at the stories, might even encourage you to share more, they're simultaneously filing you under not safe for real confidence. You become the person no one truly confides in. You're kept at arm's length for anything that matters. You're fun for surface-level banter, but you're never brought into the inner circle where real trust and real relationships exist, because trust is the currency of meaningful relationships, and gossip is bankruptcy. Oversharing is the same trap approaching from a different angle. When you tell everyone everything about yourself, your problems, your secrets, your unfiltered opinions on every topic, you lose something critically important: mystery. And with mystery goes intrigue, goes depth, goes the perception that there's more to you than what's on the surface. You become completely predictable. People know exactly who you are, what you'll say, what you think, and where you're vulnerable. There's no room left for growth, for reinvention, for strategic ambiguity. You've locked yourself into a fully known public persona that you now have to maintain or risk being called fake or inconsistent. And worse than the loss of mystery, you've given ammunition to anyone who might want to use it against you someday. A joke you made 3 years ago that doesn't play well now. An opinion you held that's become unpopular. A struggle you shared that can be weaponized to question your competence. All of it becomes permanent material for mockery, manipulation, or social attack. And there's a third layer to this that most people miss: philosophy preaching. The habit of turning every conversation into a lecture about your worldview. offering unsolicited advice about how others should live, correcting people's thinking unprompted, sharing your deep insights about life that nobody actually asked for. This doesn't make you look wise or enlightened, it makes you insufferable. People don't want to be taught unless they explicitly ask to be taught. When you volunteer your worldview unprompted, when you position yourself as the one who understands things others don't, you're claiming superiority, and nobody likes the uninvited guru. They might tolerate you being polite, they might even nod along to avoid conflict, but internally they resent the presumption. They resent being talked down to. And they certainly don't respect someone who needs to prove their intelligence or wisdom through constant, unsolicited teaching, because real respect comes from demonstration, not declaration. Show people who you are through how you live your life, through your results, through your character in action, not through what you preach about how life should be lived. Machiavelli's lesson here cuts deep. Be known by your deeds, not by your words. Let your actions create your reputation naturally. Let your discretion protect that reputation from being undermined. And let your silence preserve the mystery that makes you genuinely interesting to others, because the moment you become fully known, fully predictable, fully transparent, you lose the immense leverage that comes from being underestimated or misunderstood, or simply unknown in certain dimensions. Information is power. And every single time you leak information publicly through gossip, oversharing, or philosophy preaching, you're transferring that power away from yourself. You're making yourself vulnerable while getting nothing of value in return except temporary attention. Now we need to talk about the core wound that actually drives almost every mistake I've mentioned so far. The need for approval. This is the addiction that nobody wants to acknowledge. The invisible chain that keeps you performing for an audience that doesn't actually care about you. Every time you post something on social media and then check obsessively to see how many likes it got. Every time you change your opinion based on who's in the room and what you think they want to hear. Every time you do something not because you genuinely want to, but because you think it'll make others like you or respect you. You're placing your self-worth in someone else's hands, and they will drop it. Not necessarily out of malice, often just out of indifference, because people are fundamentally busy with their own lives, their own insecurities, their own desperate seeking of approval from others. They're not actually thinking about you nearly as much as you imagined they are, and basing your choices, your behavior, your very identity on their hypothetical judgment is a form of insanity. The need for approval turns you into a chameleon, shapeless, spineless, constantly adapting to fit whatever expectations you think exist, depending on who's watching at any given moment. And the cost of this constant shape-shifting is your authenticity, not the performative authenticity that social media celebrates, where people broadcast curated vulnerability for likes, the real kind of authenticity, where you know who you are, what you actually stand for, and what you absolutely will not tolerate, regardless of who's in the room or what they think about it. That version of you, the one that exists completely independent of external validation, is the only version that commands true lasting respect because it's consistent across contexts. It's solid and reliable rather than shifting. It's not for sale to the highest bidder with approval. Here's the deeply uncomfortable truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Most people don't actually respect you. They tolerate you. They like what you do for them. They enjoy the version of you that makes them comfortable or serves their interests. But the moment you stop performing that role, the moment you stop pleasing them, stop accommodating their expectations, stop making their lives easier, they disappear. And if that possibility terrifies, if the idea of losing people's approval feels absolutely unbearable, then you've already lost something far more important than their approval. You've lost yourself, because you're not actually living your own life according to your own values. You're living out their expectations. You're performing a character they want to see, and their expectations will always demand more than you can sustainably give. The goalposts will always move. Killing the need for approval doesn't mean becoming a hostile, isolated contrarian who does the opposite of what others want just to prove independence. That's still letting others control you, just through reverse psychology. It means building an internal compass so strong, so clear, so unshakable, that external opinion becomes background noise. Interesting that, perhaps, but not determinative. It means making decisions based on your actual values, your real goals, your long-term vision for who you want to become, not based on who will clap or criticize in the short term. It means being willing to be misunderstood by people who don't matter, so that you can be truly understood and respected by the few who do. It means accepting that you'll be disliked sometimes, dismissed sometimes, criticized sometimes by people whose opinions ultimately don't shape your reality. And it means understanding at a bone-deep level that the only approval that actually counts in your life is your own. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and genuinely respect the choices you've made, the boundaries you've held, the integrity you've maintained, then everyone else's opinion becomes irrelevant noise. Machiavelli wrote that the lion cannot protect itself from traps, and the fox cannot defend itself from wolves, so one must be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. Translation for this context: you need both cunning and strength. The cunning to recognize when you are being manipulated by your own need for approval, to see the trap of external validation for what it is, and the strength to walk away from it, to disappoint people when necessary, to let them think less of you, to prioritize your own sovereignty over their comfort or their opinion. Because approval-seeking is one of the most sophisticated traps humans fall into, and the only way out is to stop caring whether you're caught in it, to build a life so aligned with your values that others' approval becomes genuinely irrelevant to your sense of worth. Now we arrive at perhaps the most controversial principle I'll share, the one that contradicts everything modern culture constantly preaches: public vulnerability. You've been told repeatedly that sharing your pain publicly is brave, that it's healing, it creates an authentic connection, that people will respect your courage and rally to support you. These are dangerous lies. Public vulnerability is strategic suicide, because every single piece of emotional information you share publicly becomes a potential weapon that someone can use against you. Not everyone will use it. Not immediately, but eventually someone will. A business rival who wants to undermine your credibility, a critic who wants to mock you, an ex who wants revenge, a stranger on the internet who decides you're an acceptable target. They'll take the vulnerability you offered in what you thought was good faith, the trauma you shared, thinking it would help others, the struggle you revealed, hoping for solidarity, and they'll twist it into mockery, manipulation, or direct attack. And you'll have no real defense, because you gave them the blueprint. You handed them the exact map of where you're wounded. Public vulnerability doesn't create a genuine connection. It creates exposure. Real connection, the kind that actually matters and provides genuine support, happens in private, with carefully selected people who have earned the right to see your unguarded self through demonstrated loyalty over time, through proven trustworthiness, through reciprocal vulnerability in a contained, safe space. But broadcasting your deepest wounds to an audience of strangers or casual acquaintances doesn't build that kind of intimacy. It builds a reputation as someone who's emotionally unstable, or desperate for attention, or unable to process difficult experiences privately like a functional adult. And that reputation follows you everywhere, into job interviews where hiring managers have Googled you and seen your public breakdowns, into new relationships where potential partners have scrolled your history and seen years of documented struggle, into negotiations where the other side knows exactly where you're vulnerable and how to apply pressure. Because people remember weakness. They remember the breakdown you had in that viral post. They remember the confession you made. That got shared around. They remember the raw, unfiltered pain you displayed for public consumption. And whether consciously or unconsciously, they factor that information into every future interaction with you. They wonder if you're stable enough for this job. They question if you're mature enough for this relationship. They worry that you'll have another public meltdown that reflects badly on them by association. This doesn't mean you can't heal from trauma or process difficult emotions. It means you do that work in private, with a licensed therapist who's bound by confidentiality and trained to help you process safely, with a personal journal that no one else will ever read, with a very small circle of proven, trusted friends who've demonstrated they can hold space without judgment or gossip. But you don't heal on a public stage. You don't heal in a comment section full of strangers. You don't heal by turning your trauma into content for an audience. Because healing requires safety, real psychological safety, and there is absolutely no safety in public exposure. There's only the temporary illusion of solidarity from people who consume your pain like entertainment, those who feel briefly moved or connected, and then scroll past 5 minutes later to the next piece of content. They're not actually supporting your healing. They're consuming your pain, and there's a profound difference. Machiavelli understood that appearing weak in public invites attack, that showing your vulnerabilities to potential enemies is suicide, and in the modern public arena, where everyone has a platform, everyone is recording, everyone is judging, and everyone becomes a potential enemy. Not because humans are inherently evil, but because humans are human, and humans, when given clear access to another person's weaknesses, will exploit those weaknesses, sometimes consciously and deliberately, sometimes unconsciously and accidentally, but they will exploit them. It's simply how power dynamics work. So armor your shadow. Protect fiercely the parts of you that are still healing, the parts that are still forming, the parts that are still fragile and vulnerable. Let them grow strong in the privacy and safety they require, and only bring them into public light once they've been fully integrated, once you can speak about past struggles from a place of completed healing rather than active wounding, from a position of power and sovereignty rather than neediness and desperation for validation. That's the difference between strategic vulnerability and public exposure. One serves you, the other destroys you. Drop armor up in the comments if you're ready to protect what matters. So we've covered all the rules, all the mistakes most people make. Now let's talk about what actually happens when you stop making them, when you stop broadcasting your plans before they're complete, when you stop complaining about your circumstances, when you stop losing emotional control, when you stop apologizing for existing, when you stop flashing your financial status, when you stop leaking information through gossip and oversharing, when you stop desperately seeking approval, when you stop performing vulnerability for public consumption. What's actually left? Isolation, loneliness, social death? No, something far more powerful emerges: gravity. When you stop chasing people's attention, you start naturally attracting their respect. When you stop explaining yourself constantly, you become genuinely more interesting. When you stop performing for applause, you start commanding space, because scarcity creates value. This is true for resources, for time, for information, and especially for human attention and energy. The person who doesn't need external validation is rare. The person who doesn't perform for applause is unusual. The person who doesn't break under pressure stands out dramatically. And rarity is inherently magnetic in a world of sameness. This shift creates what I call the fortress, not a physical location, a psychological state, a way of being in the world where your self-worth isn't tied to how others perceive you at any given moment, where your plans aren't vulnerable to public opinion or premature scrutiny, where your emotions don't dictate your behavior or leak into inappropriate contexts, where your boundaries are